The challenge has never been finding the vulnerabilities. It's always been, how do you process that list of vulnerabilities and prioritize it? So when you look at all of the different vendors who are in the vulnerability management, and now there's that provide vulnerability management tools, and now there's a flavor of that called CTEM, continuous threat exposure management, which is where we do some automated testing to validate our controls haven't changed over time and the controls to block vulnerabilities. The difference between all the vendors is not their ability to find vulnerabilities. It is, does their priority list and their priority scheme match your particular priority scheme, right? So if I prioritize and I say the most important thing is which of my systems has the most vulnerabilities, and that's what the vendor says is the most important, then great, we're a match. We have a love fest. We buy the product and we go and we start working down that list. If we have other ways of prioritizing it, we start working on that list. But the problem is, like I said, it's never been finding it. So the fact that Mythos is finding them is great, but doesn't solve the IT problem.
And just to be clear, one of the things that we brought up in a previous episode, and I want to make sure that I clarify, one of the things that makes Mythos so radical is that it has an exploit chain capability. It can actually go out and do something with the exploits that it finds, because in a piece of reporting that we saw right after Mythos was unleashed on the general public, a lot of the things that it found were things that Claude could find as well. It's just that Mythos has the ability to take the next step and say, what can I do when I exploit this? And so, Jack, to your point, I think that it's important for people to realize that we're entering into an era where the idea that there is now a lag time between discovery and exploitation effectively shrinks to zero, because there are a lot of people out there that say, I can find a problem, but I can't do anything about it because the way to craft an exploit to make this happen is so onerous that it practically is impossible. I liken it to watching people doing tricks in video game speed runs. It's like, yeah, if we knew how to do that as a human, like, we could blow this game wide open, but unfortunately humans can't do that. Well, we are now in a realm where humans don't have to do it anymore. These are computer aided issues where, it's like if there's a race condition and it takes like 100 milliseconds for the system to execute this one thing, now the system can do that. Or in the case of Mythos, it can do an exploit chain where it's like, hey, these 2 vulnerabilities in Firefox actually caused 100 other vulnerabilities because I can use those to stair step to other things. Now, the plus side of that is that if I can close off those 2 vulnerabilities that lead to the chain, then I can wipe out all of the bugs that it found. So in a way, this is helping me because it shows when I'm doing resource allocation, yeah, that bug is important to close now because it's not just a memory leak. It's a memory leak that can lead to 8 other things. So maybe I'm a little bit happy that we finally got people off their duffs to do stuff.
I feel like more information can be helpful. The problem is, as Jack mentioned, we've known there are lots of vulnerabilities in our organizations for decades. And the problem is, 1, is a patch available? 2, if the patch is available, does it work? Is it going to break something when I roll it out? 3, what is my patch window in which I can get this rollout installed across my entire fleet? So those problems don't go away. And now you've got this additional pressure of, oh my God, everything's on fire all the time.
I'm sorry. I would dive into that a little bit farther and say that a big portion of dealing with the vulnerabilities is not technical. It's actually the people process problem. Right. As you mentioned patch windows, right? As patch windows are fewer and farther between these days, and they're shorter than they used to be. And that's because organizations up until this point have been willing to accept the risk of compromise versus the pain of a downtime, right? The other problem we have is there's a lot, especially in large organizations, there's a lot of process involved and double checking our work, which is all very good. But then you find out, because of all this process involved, it can take 2 to 3 weeks to approve a firewall rule change. Well, that's a 2 or 3 week window where we didn't used to have the ability. When you learned about an exploit, it wasn't in the wild for 2 or 3 weeks. Now, when you hear about an exploit, a vulnerability, it's in the wild instantly. And so you no longer have that luxury of waiting 2 or 3 weeks to deal with it.
I think, Tom, if we want to maybe try to extract a little bit of positivity from this, one thing that occurs to me is, if it's great that this tool, one good thing about this tool being so effective is software developers can take it and start running it, as part of their QA so that they are shipping more secure software, which would be great and would solve much of this problem. I'm also curious if there's an opportunity to take what Mythos and Claude and others can do and help build mitigations, in anticipation of a patch that organizations might be able to do, like Jack mentioned, a firewall change or something. And of course, those are also tricky, but if we can get mitigations in place faster as we're waiting for a patch to roll out, or we can take the time to work through our process, maybe those are some benefits.